Hey everybody! As mentioned in the previous video again, I did want to go through and do a full run through, start to finish, of some of these simple inoculation techniques. And again, this is only going to be from a broth basis as a start, because that is the most common way that we start most of these techniques. But again, I kind of want to do a start to finish setup so that everything is kind of good to go. But if you are starting either with a slant or a plate, you will have to use some of those other techniques in the previous video as well in order to set everything up. But kind of with that in mind, let's get started with a broth to broth transfer, start to finish, and the way that that's going to look. So let me get my Bunsen burner going. There we go. All right, so my goal, I want to transfer broth from here to here in an aseptic, again, simple inoculation fashion. So we're going to start out, number one, flame your loop. There we go. Gotta wait our 10 or so seconds so that it is cool. Flame the mouth of the tube, insert your loop into the broth, swirl it around a bit, flame the mouth of the tube, and put the lid back on. Take your second tube, remove the lid, flame the mouth of the tube, swirl your loop inside of the liquid, flame the mouth of the tube, and flame the loop. And that gets our full broth to broth transfer complete. All right, I'll put that there to let that cool down. I'll grab another one. All right, so now I'm going to go ahead and do a broth to slant transfer. Again, start to finish. This is my broth. This is a slant that I want to inoculate. So let's go through, kind of talk about how that's going to work out. So we'll start out flaming our loop. All right. Get your broth. Lid off, pass it through the flame a couple times, put your sample, or put your loop inside of the sample, flame the top of the tube a couple times, put the lid back on, grab your slant, take the lid off, flame top of the tube, gently again, only across the slant, don't dig into it. Very gently streak in a zigzag line across my slant. Flame the top of the tube and close it back up. Then we flame our loop in order to finish out our procedure. To this guy. All right, so that was again our broth to slant transfer. Now we're going to go ahead and do our broth to plate transfer that we're going to do. So to start out, we're going to flame our loop. Take our broth, give it a couple seconds here. Alright, should be about 10 seconds or so. Lid off, pass it through the flame a couple times, dip your loop inside of the broth, pass your mouth of the tube through the flame a couple times, put your lid back on. Get your plate, open the lid, streak across the plate, Close the lid and flame your loop. And there we go. Those are, again, just kind of the three basic techniques that we use in order to do a lot of these transfers in the lab. Most of it, again, will be coming from a broth, so those three are pretty good to look at to make sure that you understand the techniques well. And then if there are any of those other ones where we're going to be taking from different, like from slants, or if we're going to be taking from plates, again, some of that stuff will be mentioned later on as well. But really, that should cover, again, kind of the broth to slant, broth to plate techniques that we do in our class.